Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's edition of From the Boardroom to the Locker Room, and our special guest, our cricket correspondent and expert, whom we've spoken to many occasions in 2024, and hopefully will do so in 2025. Former convener of selectors and Protea and Scottish international, Omar Henry. Omar, welcome to the program. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you, buddy, and same to you and all of us, and may it be a good one.
Absolutely. Now, if I, a year ago, before we sent our third string team to New Zealand, said we'd be in the final of the World Test Championship, you would have said, I've known you for a long time, Louis, but I think you've lost your marbles, wouldn't you?
I would have. No doubt about that, sir. No doubt about that. But
It's
that's
been
the world
remarkable.
all over, eh? That's the
It's
world
been
all over. Very unpredictable.
Absolutely, but it's been remarkable. I mean, what has gone on and what has happened since Shukri Conrad's taken over the side and the results that they've had have been quite astonishing.
Well, it certainly has been. There's no doubt about it. Statistically, and also the outcomes of these test matches and test series, away and at home, has been absolutely phenomenal. And credit to him and the players and his staff. What looked impossible, they made it possible. And in that is one hell of a lesson to be learned. You know, with all the issues that we confronted with in South African cricket, it shows A, there is potential, B, that there is quality coaches, support staff, players that can improve, that has got a desire to play for South Africa, that is proud of wearing the badge and really do well. We need to make sure that we find these people or players on a regular basis throughout our systems.
And then obviously we need to keep them in South Africa. But one of the key things for me, outside of all of the learnings and the lessons that have been put into place that you've already mentioned, is our batting. I mean, we've had centurions in a year that I can't remember since maybe the Umlas and the Colours days and the Gary Kirsten days, where we've had so many players in so many games all the way down to 7 and 8 scoring hundreds.
Well, that was a successful era, isn't it? Colours,
Of course.
Amla, Kirstens, Smiths, Gibbs, the list is long, right? And it doesn't matter what format you play, you need quality batters, you need quality bowlers, you need quality all-rounders. And as a team, you need to field well. Those are basics of a quality team. And we've had it before, and we've lost it. It's now coming back. And again, I'm emphasizing lessons to be learned. Why have we lost it? How did we get to it now? And what should we do to maintain it? That is key. You look into Australia, the West Indies of Clive Lloyd, there's examples of how these countries maintain that. Australia is possibly the most successful, sustainable cricketing country at the moment in terms of successes in all formats of the game. And we definitely have got the potential, but we make too many unforced errors, mistakes, some unforgivable, some forgivable. And we need to ensure that those mistakes that is unforgivable shouldn't be repeated.
So answer the question that you've posed, those three areas that you mentioned. Which were the good ones and which were the ones that should be never repeated?
Well, the main thing here is, if you look at what Cricket South Africa is asking of all of us in cricket, that is mass participation, right? Then we're talking about development. We're talking about transformation. And I'll come back to transformation. Then we talk about excellence, and then we talk about sustainability. All right? So
Yeah.
if you look at those elements, if every province, 15 provinces, adhere to that, mass participation, grow the game in numbers, go out there and market the game, attract young cricketers, make it interesting for parents to send their kids to go and play, to encourage their kids to play cricket. Doesn't matter whether you're poor or whether you're rich. Play the game of cricket. Make it accessible to them. Make it affordable to them. So that will then cover mass participation. Then we have to ensure that we've got a development criteria and people who can develop people on a regular basis. They can improve. They've got a mindset that is growing on a daily basis in terms of getting better. Now that brings me to transformation. Transforming people to get better. Transforming structures, infrastructure, systems to get better, not to get worse. That brings you to the excellence part.
I love the way you have explained transformation, because I think many people in South Africa still, after 30 years of democracy, believe that transformation is something where you have to take people of color and divide them into units and have X number of players from each racial group in this country, and that's what transformation is. Transformation is to transform people into wanting to play the game. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what color they are and where they come from. It's trying to build them up, right?
Well, that is in a cricket context, right? And in a holistic context, it's about getting people to get better in what they're doing and the way they think, the way they do things, the way they frame things, and make it for a better country. Doesn't matter what sport you're playing, doesn't matter what religion you are, doesn't matter what color you are. We are all South Africans. And therefore, we are dictated on the demographics. So at the end of the day, what doesn't matter what province you are, we need to ensure that we do these basic things right. Then when it comes to cricket, it tells you exactly what you need to do. If you select any team at school level or those who plays in the street, they're going to look for people to go and open the batting. And they will say, oh, but Louis Karpas is the best batsman in our team, so he must go in first.
Yeah.
You don't need rocket science to do it.
Absolutely. So let's look at the season gone by and what we can look forward to in the future. There's some great encouragement in terms of some of these youngsters that you're talking about going forward. And there's some great experience in the side. I've mentioned the batting. It's always been, not always, but we've tended to have the best bowlers in the world, and we've always done brilliantly on the field, and our fielding and our bowling has always been exceptional. Sometimes our batting has let us down. What do you think the key was to these cricketers who are now scoring hundreds and doing it all the way down the order?
If I listen to what Shukri has said, and this is something that Cricket South Africa can ponder about. He had these players when they came out of school, played SA under-19s, went to the South African Academy, played in the SA urging side or SA Colts or SAA, whatever. So we had a pathway with them. And they can, in the words of Rabada, they can now familiarize themselves with one another. There is a certain amount of trust and respect for one another. They know one another's ability, what they can do, what they can't do. And they've encouraged one another to get better. So the environment is a growth environment. It's a trustworthy environment. You feel safe. The outcomes is there for you. That if you create that environment, of growth, then people will respond. And this is what happened.
Yeah.
So potential needs something else to grow. And we need to put that environment together at all times, whether it is at provincial level or whether it is at international level. We need to ensure that that environment is non-negotiable. Unfortunately, between me and you, I don't think it is a common denominator within our structures in the various provinces and sometimes in South Africa.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Now, when you were convener of selectors, did you have as big a headache as what our current convener of selector has to try and find the right 15 people to take to the World Test Championship?
Not really. What my biggest challenge was at the time was the panel that I served on was to create the depths, because when we got to that panel, it was very much a time when, the Ansi scandal, it was a very,
Mm.
very talented team who underperformed, who had lots of issues and etc. And they didn't know how to deal with it and give their best on the field. So the change of leadership was key to the growth of that team. And then obviously the depth that was created, i.e., players like in the start, it was your Hashim Amlas, your JP Duminis, your Ashwell Princes, your Andre Nels. Over the years, it just gradually grew until we had a core within the team that drove the process to success with a captain of Graham Smith, and then the depth that he can call on to ensure that we keep and maintain a good quality of cricket. And that the rest is history at the moment. So today we talk about another opportunity to get that maize in South Africa. By hook or by crook, how we got there, that's not our problem. That's the ICC problem. This team made sure that they got the right outcomes out of every test match they played. And I'll give all the credit to them. And I'm impressed with them, the way they went about it, right? I hope that they can now lay that foundation as solid as they can to ensure that we can build on that at least for the next 10 years.
Yeah. So I say this tongue in cheek because I have been, and I know there's a lot of people that agree with me how the ICC are currently being run by the BCCI from India and how few test matches we played. But isn't it ironic that we've played the least number of test matches, and based on performance in those test matches, we've qualified for the World Test Championship, and a country like India, who've played by far the most test matches, haven't. It just shows you a win percentage is what is most important. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the interview, when they went off with the third string side to New Zealand and got beaten 2-0, to have come back from that in a weird way, as much as we'd love to see much more test cricket, it's worked in our favor. And if we go on to win the World Test Championship, I guess nobody can ignore the fact that you want to play the team that's the current World Test champions going forward. And perhaps more test matches can be put into the calendar for us.
Well, the ICC structure, if one unpack it the way they operate, then one will find an enormous amount of flaws. What you've just said, that BCCI, the bosses ICC. When you look at it immediately, then it's about money, right? So the Test Championship, to me, from a distance, it's put together, all the Test nations playing. However, there is a certain group that focus on how much money they can make. And all credit to them, right? Australia, India, and England,
Yeah.
they possibly have historically got a test structure that is well attended at various venues and well supported. and they can sell it, and it is an event that attracts the global cricket fraternity. So that is the one aspect of it. The other aspect is the Test Championship. Unfortunately for them, or some of them, they didn't make it in the amount of games that they played. New Zealand is an example. South Africa is another example. So how do they pursue with this? Because there's already people, commentators, experts, talking either blaming South Africa or they're blaming ICC. ICC is now talking about a two-division test structure. Whether that is going to work, whether it's not going to work, it reminds me of South Africa. You know, over the last 30 years, we had 3 different playing structures, from 11 provinces to 6 franchises to 15 provinces professionally. And now we're talking about another change. So what should be the objective be of the ICC? What should the objective be of a country in terms of organizing cricket or being the custodians of cricket? Is it to grow the game from an ICC perspective? Is it to grow the game from a Cricket South Africa perspective and any other country for that matter?
Yeah.
That needs to be spelled out seriously, and people need to commit to that. So that at the end of the day, when we talk governance of any organization, we talk about accountability, we talk about responsibility, we talk about fairness, and we talk about honesty. Now, right now, some of these can be questioned.
You're listening to the edition of From the Boardroom to the Locker Room. We'll have more for you after these.
Hey there, listeners. It's Kinga here, and I've got a question for you. Have you ever needed help but resisted the urge to ask for it?
That's a great question, King. I'm Nolita, and I've definitely felt the resistance before. It's like you don't want to feel like you owe anyone anything, right?
Exactly, Norita. In this avoidance that comes from not wanting to get hurt. It manifests in avoiding connecting to other people. But what you are avoiding is reenacting the original pain.
That is so true, Kings. And that's exactly what we're going to explore in our upcoming episode 63. We are going to open up about why some people resist asking for help, even when they need it the most.
That's right. So, dear listeners, mark your calendars for the 19th of January 2025, when we are uploading the episode at 10 a.m. South African Standard Time.
Stay tuned, everyone. And remember, it's okay to ask for help. Connect with you on the 19th.
Join us on Thursday evening on From the Boardroom to the Locker Room when we chat to Malabongwe Maketa, former South African cricketer, interim coach of the Proteas and current coach of the South African under-19 team. We'll talk to him about his thoughts on South African cricket. We'll also talk to him about the South African under-19's test match against England and the one-day internationals coming up at the end of the month. That's Malabongwe Maketa on From the Boardroom to the Locker Room Thursday between 6 and 6:30 Central African Time. Join us then. Look, we can knock Cricket South Africa and we can knock the ICC as much as we want, and quite rightly so and justifiably so. But I think at the end of the day as well, we as the fans need to support the game to enable Cricket South Africa and other organizations around the world, and I don't just mean South African fans, to go and watch these matches, because that will then put pressure on the likes of the BCCI and the ICC, because fans in the ground means money in the ground, which means more money in the game. And where you can't fault Australia and India, I mean, 351,000 people over 5 days to watch a Boxing Day test match at the MCG. It is remarkable. And who said Test cricket was dying? I mean, we had magnificent crowds at Centurion. We were both at Newlands. It was absolutely fantastic. The Test matches were exciting. But the fans need to fill the grounds around the world, not just in India and Australia and England.
Well, you've got to ask yourself, why is it that people go to cricket games in Australia? And why test matches? And why is it that they're not going to test matches in South Africa? All right? There's a reason. You need to engage with them. They're a stakeholder. Now, unfortunately, we didn't engage with them. There was a time when Cricket South Africa banned the media. You banned the media, which speaks to the fan. Now, these are, I'm not knocking any country or BCCI. All I'm asking them to do what they're supposed to do. If you accept the responsibility of being the president, I can't be the president of a country and being the president of ICC. I cannot be the president of a province in South Africa and being the president of Cricket South Africa. I can't have that.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I'm not mocking and knocking anyone. I'm asking you to do what you're supposed to do. If you cannot do it, go and do your daily job somewhere else.
Yeah.
But don't
Absolutely.
bring the game into disrepute. Don't bring more challenges to the game. We're already facing so many challenges in South Africa. ICC, the same thing. If you look at the first thing the ICC is currently as a challenge is the currency. Varies from various countries. The business models of each country is different. There's poorer countries. There's unemployment. So it affects the fans. So how do you structure within? So these are the little things that I was always reminded when I was convener of selectors. Omar, the devil lies in the detail. You can't ignore that.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. So let's just look forward, if we can. Some of the most talented cricketers that we've seen in years seem to be coming out of South African cricket. I mean, we know the skill of Rabada is led that charge along with others. But how pleased are you to see the Kwena Mapakas and the Luandre Pretoriuses and those kind of guys not only getting an opportunity at, first of all, Mapaka at test level, others as well as we spoke to Mali Mabongwa Mketi, the under-19 coach, this wonderful one-day series and 2 test series against England coming up for the under-19s. I mean, that's really where it all begins, and that's where it's going to take us to.
Well, I mean, I'm so glad that all these structures are in place now, and you can test the potential where they are and then put little programs for them to improve. That is absolutely wonderful. The caliber of potential that you just mentioned, I mean, I was asked about Kwena, and when I saw him last year on the under-19, I said the other day, he's gold dust. He's gold dust. A, because he's young. B, because he's a left armer. C, because he's got pace.
Yeah.
Now, if you take all that and you give him a support structure to grow, to get to the best he can ever be, right? Immediately, you can build around him, i.e. the way we build around Rabada. The same needs to happen with the batters. We need 1 or 2 quality batters and build around them a few players that support them, that can play with them and make sure that we get the right totals on the right conditions against the best oppositions. That nurturing needs to take place from not just under 19. Seriously. You look at countries now, like India, right?
Yeah.
Like England now. England plays in the under 19, 16-year-olds. It's the same with India. So we're lagging behind a little bit. So we need to make sure that we evolve with those countries on a regular basis so that we can compete with them and against them and beat them.
Yeah.
That, for me, is how we are going to get more test cricket because they play against one another, because they play good cricket, exciting cricket, they attract the people. They've also got the history of people coming to we had that history, people coming to watch, but we lost the attractiveness of our competition, of how we compete. We can now build that back up again, and we will be on demand to play. The example I gave is the West Indies of Clive Lloyd. They played all over the world because they were in demand.
So let's look forward. One of the negatives for me, if at all a negative, is that the World Test Championship final starts on the 11th of June, and we don't have another test match until then. We've got an ICC Champions Trophy. We've got the current Betway T20 that's currently underway. I know the Cricket South Africa 4-day series is also going to start again at the end of this week. But none of the players that would be selected in that squad going to England will have much 4-day cricket, or even 5-day cricket for that matter, or no 5-day cricket for that matter. Would you suggest a couple of warm-up games? Do you think it's possible that we can go and play a county game or two? Is it even worth it?
I think that is a necessity. I think the biggest obstacle is possibly the players that's going to be at the IPL, and those who are going to get to the latter stages of the competition. So that is something they need to address ASAP. Then it is what you're talking about, preparation in terms of 4-day cricket. I immediately said when we qualified that we need now to go and look into the UK, whether it is Ireland, whoever, or a county, we can play 2 or 3, even 1 3-day game, just to nurture the players into it. Those who haven't played in the IPL and had absolutely no cricket, just to nurture them in and then immediately finish it off with a 4-day game where we can test the core, against good quality county or island, whoever. But it is of utmost importance that we play some games in the UK before the Test Championship.
Well, that's a couple of months away. We've got lots of other cricket. I'm sure we will be talking to you again in the very near future. Amar Henry, it's always lovely chatting to you. Thank you so much, and we will talk to you again soon. That is tonight's edition of From the Boardroom to the Locker Room. We will be back with more for you right here, same time, same place, every single week, Monday to Friday. As always, be nice to each other. Until next time, bye for now.